Hello, welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau, and with me today is John Bristowe, my co-host. How you doing, John?
I'm well. It's nice to see you again. Hope everyone out there is doing well. So a lot of news has been hitting the wire, and obviously this is our show to help you stay informed on what's latest and greatest on the whole world of software development. Ed and I comb the various archives that are out there, and obviously we're uh, trying to take a discerning eye at some of the things that catches our attention and try and bring it to you, the folks who are watching this, some sense of what is worth your attention and maybe what is not. And obviously, there's lots in the world of software. There's lots of things going on. So yeah, that's what we try and do every week that we bring this to you. And we've had a bit of a snafu with regards to the show being scheduled. The reason why is because obviously with daylight savings, times change not only for folks up in the northern hemisphere, but folks down in the southern hemisphere. And that's why we've had to make some adjustments to the show time. So that's essentially what's happened here. And now we're back, and we're going to be talking more about tech and code and all that great stuff. Lots of things we're going to mention on the show here, and we've got a lot of highlights to bear mention for that. A lot of you folks are obviously spending time working on your software projects, and we hope you're doing a really great job of that. We are going to try and catch you up on a few things, just to give you a sneak peek, some new announcements around .NET. Obviously, the whole range of Apple devices that have been shipped out as well. We've got some new features in Safari. Go 118 has shipped. We talk a little bit about some GitHub Actions, performance benefits of sealed classes in .NET, and obviously some fun stuff around security circles with Okta. So
Okta is a security platform, so this is definitely something that's important.
yeah, so this happened yesterday. There's a hacker group called Lapsus $. I don't know, Lapsus sus. And they posted some screenshots on Twitter recently, indicating that
Mm-hmm.
they had compromised I guess, and I don't have all the, I'm not a security expert by any stretch, but they basically posted a whole bunch of screenshots showing a super user account in Okta that allowed them to potentially see other accounts. That's the gist of it. And that was posted on Twitter. This was claimed back in January. The screenshots
Okay.
based on the time, so they included the system clock in those screenshots, and so you could see back in January this occurred. Um, According to the timeline here posted on Okta's website, they talked a little bit about the investigation that occurred, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people were like, wait a minute, because the initial response was kind of like, wait a minute, there's not enough detail here. Cloudflare posted their own investigation. They reset passwords for employees through something or other. But basically, it's all there. You can go check it out. I'm not going to. I'm obviously butchering it, but it's one of those things that kind of, when we talk about supply chain in terms of the software supply chain, this is one of those critical pieces around identity, security, etc. SolarWinds, as we all remember, was around source code. These and other aspects of software supply chain management are super important, because obviously they can open certain doors, and so this is why people are kind of like, sort of things. So yeah, I mean, I think Okta's done the right thing by posting an update. I think the delay, however, and people have been now parsing their statements with a fine tooth comb. This always happens when you're not super transparent up front, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate. But that's a lesson. If anything to take away from this is stay aware of this. If you're ask questions, obviously, of Okta, what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. But take this as a personal note. Like, when security events occur in your organization, it's best to be as transparent as possible right from the beginning,
Yeah.
and don't delay. Like, get the information out there saying, hey, this has happened. We're investigating. Okay, update. This is what we've learned. Another update. This is what we've learned, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've never used Okta directly, but I know some folks that work there. It's an important part of that application architecture. Security is a big deal.
Yeah.
So I like we say though about being transparent with everything that's going on with something like this, because you need to
Yep.
have your customers be able to prepare for whatever
Oh,
they need
sure.
to
Yep.
fix, or need to get mitigations in place for. Good stuff, man.
I don't know if it's
Uh,
good, but
well,
it's yeah,
it's a
it's interesting. Yeah.
good article though. Good thing to raise attention on. Uh, the Apple event was a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
We've kind of been trying to schedule the show lately and trying to pick new times and things. So we kind of missed this one. It was hot off the presses, but they introduced some new devices.
Yep.
There's a new Mac Studio with the
Yes.
M1 Ultra chip that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, this is kind of like two
So
Mac Minis that have been soldered together, basically.
yeah,
It's
this guy here.
massive, but it's actually quite powerful. So they've taken two M1 chips and eventually soldered them together, increasing the available bus, increasing the available throughput. So the throughput on the CPU is fantastic. This is the Ultra configuration of their M1. They didn't even talk about their Pro line, which is amazing. But yeah, so this is basically a bring your own keyboard, mouse, monitor type solution. You could think of this as the Ultra Mini, I guess. It is big. It's basically like two minis stacked on top of each other. They also introduced a new studio display with a nicely integrated webcam.
Yeah,
um, I know that the reviews on that haven't been as awesome, but whatever. A new SE phone is out, which is the most popular budget iPhone. I got my son that actually recently because his device was an old iPhone 6, and this is the one I got my son, and we've been
hmm
using it for a while, and it works great. I think this is the best device for teenagers wanting a phone, especially an iPhone. I don't think an iPhone 13 is worth the money for, especially for a teenager.
no,
But this
absolutely
has all
not.
the internals. This has all the internals you need. This has the new A15. It has obviously all the architecture that's embedded with that, so it runs super performant. But it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like the super awesome camera and stuff. And like, let's be honest, my son's not taking super awesome photos anyway. He's just playing around with it. So at that age, I don't think you need anything awesome. New green iPhone, obviously. Everyone wants a new color, so there you go. And then the iPad Air
Yeah, the
was
iPad
another
Air.
announcement. So all in all, a relatively good set of updates. Obviously, the Mac Studio being the biggest one, and the display. The Mac Studio is fantastic. I'll love to have a Mac Studio. It is a bit
Yeah,
steep, yes, and that's the
it
baseline
is, but it isn't.
configuration.
Like this 3,999, so $4,000. It is 80% faster than the top of the line Mac Pro, which
Yeah,
retailed for
so
$50,000.
yeah, they posted those like really weird, non-specific charts and graphs where they show power and performance and such.
Uh-huh.
Because it's based on obviously the M1, it's super efficient relative to Intel's chipset. The bang for buck is awesome. Um, the the throughput is very comparable to a fully specced out, you know, uh, Intel 9 whatever with 64 gigs of RAM and a
Mhm.
GTX whatever card, etc., etc. Like, it's just you take the maximum. Look at this thing. You take the maximum config you can get on a PC, and this comes close. Is what they
Yeah,
were saying. So
I'd have to see on the graphics processing side, but on the CPU side, it sounds pretty solid. Um, and
yep.
for the size too, I mean, you
Oh sure.
kind of joked about how this is like two Mac Minis stacked on top of each other.
Yes.
This still pales in comparison to this
Yes, I know.
gigantic
Yes.
beast here.
The nice thing
I mean,
that Apple
it's
actually did, which was really cool, is they actually put finally ports on the front. So on the front there are Thunderbolt 4 ports and an SD card slot reader, which is awesome because for the longest time everyone who has a Mac has been buying these extenders for
mhm.
the lack of ports. So there's four Thunderbolt 4 ports. There's an HDMI 1.1 port, not 1.2, which is kind of weird. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in the IO. But thankfully Apple listened and put some I/O ports on the front, because this thing is going to sit underneath your monitor, and if you're a professional, you're going to have connected devices, and you want those ports in the front.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool tech. The only thing that's missing from this lineup is an AR headset. I thought we'd see something coming. Still
right.
nothing, man. Still no AR headset.
Yes, fine.
So shifting gears to some Go. Looks like we've got a new Go update.
Yeah, so this is the big one. This is, okay, so if you're a developer listening to this and you're thinking about working on Go, working with Go, or you're a Go developer, this is the update you've been waiting for. Go 1.18 is finally released after much fanfare and waiting. This introduces generics, which has been a long sought after feature of the Go programming language. So this is fantastic, because anyone who's been using Go for the longest time has had to basically thunk down to what are called interfaces, and they're kind of like they're non-specific basically. Once you cast to an interface, it's like casting to IONknown or object or something of that nature. So generics basically gives you parameterized types, which is awesome, and it's fully backward compatible. So the thing about this is that Go has always touted backwards compatibility, so it's fully backward compatible, so you can run this in other Go environments with lesser versions. Another major feature is obviously fuzzing. So fuzzing is this process by which you have unit tests and you want to inject basically a whole bunch of not random, but data into your test suites, so that you can test for super long strings or super weird strings or numbers that you would never see in a practical sense. Fuzzing allows you to do things like that. Obviously, that's a bastardized version of fuzzing, but those are the two big features with Go. And this is the release of this is as significant as V1. That is version 1.118. This is the one you've been waiting for. So this is definitely the time to upgrade if you want. And if you've been looking and waiting to go, then this is the one to use. What's interesting is when you update the tools inside of VS Code. So VS Code has about 9 or so tools integrated for Go. At the end of the installation process, it says you are ready to go. So I like how they do that. So
just trying to see how generics get implemented in Go. We use T in .NET. What's the
it's the same. It's basically there's a similar syntax relative to Go for generics. You'll see it actually on the they see it. So you'll see, they use K in this sense. So they've got a map structure there is a built-in structure. It's sort of akin to a dictionary, and they've got a map of K of V. So you've got a generic type there, and you can do comparisons and things like that. So
okay, cool.
the way that these things are ordered, if you're a .NET developer, it's flipped. So you do the variable name first, and then the type second. So which is opposite to
inverse of this over here.
Yeah. So you get type safety, and this is something like the thing is when you write Go programs. I've written a fair amount of Go. It's very practical, very simple, very idiomatic. It's non-complex, etc. The framers of Go, Google, they basically wanted the language to be very simple and easy to write. And so the hope is that the reason why this has taken so long, because generics has been under thought and under work and under discussion for a long time, like years. And so the reason why they took so long was because they wanted to preserve that idiomatic, practical, easy to use sort of aspect to the language itself, whilst preserving backwards compatibility. There was a lot of discussion back in the day that this would actually require a major version bump, so you would have to go to version 2. But they were able to preserve backwards compatibility with this feature, which is amazing. Like, that's great, because now you don't have to update runtimes, etc. So
very cool.
Yes.
Well, it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show, John. I know you're excited. You haven't been able to do this in a while.
I know.
But it's time to see if it can play Doom.
Oh,
which
I missed that.
I spent so much time on that transition.
Yep.
I have to
Yep.
make sure that I use it as much as possible. So this is a very tiny device. This RP2040
Oh yeah.
programmable flash, I guess, little Raspberry Pi, just tiny device, and
Yes.
you know, we've seen this running on all sorts of stuff on this show. The
Birth control
pregnancy
kits.
tests, yeah,
Yep.
pregnancy
Oh, sorry, not
tests
birth
and
control kits.
everything
Pregnancy
else.
tests. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
all sorts of stuff. So I mean, this is probably one of
Smallest.
the tiniest devices
Yes.
that actually runs it at a color,
Look at the
on a
frame
color
rate.
display.
Look at the frame rate. That's insane.
Yeah,
Is there
we've
smoke
come a
coming off
long
that
way.
thing? There must be smoke coming off that thing.
I
Okay, so that's
remember
running off
having.
the Okay, so hang on. That's running off the Raspberry Pi Pico, which is I think Raspberry's smallest chip
Yeah,
system on a chip. So,
yeah, that's insanely small. The
but
processor in that thing
that's
is
insanely
itty
performant.
bitty.
Look how performant that is.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's 1280 resolution, full audio, 8 channels, stereo,
Okay,
networkable
so
up to
scroll
4
down because they're talking
players.
about the scrolling. Yeah, they're talking about the development here. So zappingly hard mode.
Convince myself it's probably impossible.
Yes.
So they detail all of the ins and outs of making this work. Remember, Doom
Wow.
is open source, so
Yeah.
there was some things that they had to kind of customize to make this work. But
This whole community around Doom is like it's probably this like dark web of ADD oriented developers because they're just
mhm,
whittling away down on the micro optimizations. I love it. I think it's awesome. But
yeah,
these are the most like insanely focused folks to get this stuff to run. And I think it's almost like I thought we had reached peak Doom emulation or mods when we hit the pregnancy test. I thought that was peak Doom, but this is
yeah.
insane. Like it's just where else can this go? Like I don't
I
know
mean,
where else we're gonna find this.
imagine embedding this in like a Nintendo, or not a Nintendo, like a Xbox style controller, and you just you have those things, or you just plug them into your TV. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? You
that
just have
stuff's easy. That's just
yeah.
input channels
So
basically.
you could take this device and embed it in a controller and just be like, all right, here's my controller that plays Doom.
Yeah,
And
I'm
we
thinking of
had like the Pac-Man games and some
yeah,
like
yeah.
NES emulators that did that, but now you've got like the ultimate game, Doom. And
Yeah, I
if you're
think
into,
what's probably may happen is people might migrate to Quake and because it's under that same banner of id software.
yeah,
And it's multiplayer and it's kind of interesting. So I mean this goes credit to John Carmack and his team of merry men engineers who basically did some insane things with the code
yeah,
running Doom. So
yeah, the Atari community, Amiga community, the C64 folks always have these crazy hacks as well.
yeah.
But I don't know if they'll be going to Quake, because I saw something else that might keep you on the Doom platform, and that's the fact that you can mod Doom so well. And for a second, we've got the full-on SpongeBob total conversion.
Wow.
This is pretty epic. So I mean, this is like an absolute total conversion of Doom, SpongeBob style.
Okay.
And they've taken. I mean, this.
Well, okay.
You play as Squidward. These are the important things we cover on this show, John.
Yes, of
I
course.
mean, you got to have the SpongeBob total conversion for Doom.
Wow.
Somebody went through a lot of work here. I mean, making
they're
these
just sprite
levels
maps.
and
Yeah, but they're just sprite maps. So
these are custom levels. It's not like they just switched out the sprites. They actually
they
created
made custom
new,
maps, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
custom maps and textures, and I mean, this is pretty awesome.
Mm.
Relatively speaking. I thought that was great. I mean,
Okay.
Doom still getting that kind of attention this many years later makes me a happy camper. I don't know
Okay.
about you, John. I
Sure.
played so much Doom back in the day. That was many, many hours in summers spent playing that thing. WebKit, it's getting an update finally in
Yeah.
Safari.
Well, WebKit is the underlying engine for Safari browsers. It's it's the engine that basically drives a lot of features there. That's not just everything, but Safari 15.4 dropped, and as part of that, they introduced a whole bunch of new features in Safari. So if you upgrade and are running, Safari's got actually quite a nice feature set. Actually, Apple's been paying a lot of attention to it, and they've added a number of nice features. And so, in terms of everything that's been implemented in here, the list just goes on and on. I tried to pick out some of them, and I can't really find any ones other than the Web API section, which is probably the one that's most notable. So, as part of they've got a variety of new APIs feature sets in there. So, support for file system access, support for things like
Cascading
broadcast channel.
layers is a big one.
Yes. Yes.
Layers, the had pseudo selector has,
Yes.
and trying to remember the other one that is it any all. There's another one that goes with has. Those have been in Chrome for a bit.
Yep.
So Safari's lagging behind a little bit, but it looks like it's finally catching up.
Mhm.
So that's good to
Yep.
see.
Yep.
Viewport widths are there. These are all really important because you don't, want to have to rely on like polyfills and all that garbage like we used to have to.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see these things get implemented across the board.
And for mobile developers, the most important thing is, can I use it in WK WebKit, for example? And the answer is yes. So they mentioned that near the bottom about developers who are using frameworks for using that, they can take advantage of that. So
Yeah. I'm wondering if they'll allow PWAs to be real applications in iOS. Is that
well,
going
it's
to be?
the post is there. You can check it out for yourself. So
Yep.
again, I'm bastardizing the obviously the summary there, but
It's quite a long
yeah,
list of stuff, though.
it
I
is.
mean,
It
that's a
is. Yeah,
huge, huge update.
it is. It is massive.
Speaking of huge updates, there's lots of stuff dropping in the .NET world, so I've got quite a few of those. So MAUI is now on Preview 14. I believe this is going to be, I don't know if it's spelled out here, so take this with a grain of salt. I think this is the final preview before RTM.
This time we mean it.
Right? I think this is going to be the final.
Yeah.
So there's some reconciliation, they call it, with the Device and Essentials APIs. So Xamarin Essentials, they consolidated, I guess, a lot of the API surface for
Yep.
all of these type of things. So you can think like accelerometer, clipboard, etc., like all of this stuff is going to be in the MAUI Essentials, which I think is the predecessor of Xamarin Essentials.
Okay.
So there is that. Let's see. There's some renaming that's going on in here. I mean, these are all just kind of tidying up the platform.
Yes.
Because I think we're getting close to the end of the road here, and they're going to actually release the final bits over the next few months here. So keep your eye close to this if you're interested in MAUI. And if you're not familiar with what MAUI is, this is the next version of Xamarin, but it will also include desktop. So you can write apps for desktop, web, and mobile using .NET. And then if you're using Blazor, there's Blazor Hybrid that lets you use HTML, CSS, C#, and JavaScript to develop desktop mobile applications as well. So that will be coming with it. It's kind of like competing with Flutter, and there's a couple other frameworks out there. I think Kotlin just got an update that is bringing it kind of on that write once, run anywhere type of a platform. So we've got some stiff competition out there.
Yeah, they've got Kotlin multi-platform.
Yeah,
given
Kotlin
the fact
multi-platform.
given the fact that its heritage is on Java, and Java runs everywhere. So
So yeah, that was another announcement. I didn't grab that one in our links though, but yeah, that was announced. The .NET 7 Preview 1 is out.
awesome.
So we're on Preview 7 now. And again, this is just a couple weeks ago. We've had some show delays here, but this is the first preview, .NET 7. We've got Blazor improvements. And again, everything that touches .NET is being improved here.
Yes.
They talk a little bit about MAUI Preview 13 here, and just a couple weeks later they ship 14. And this is a question that we've been getting a lot of, modernizing your .NET apps. We have a lot of people coming from like full framework and all of that, and then .NET is just moving so quickly. We've got .NET 6. We're already talking about how to migrate to .NET 7. So the .NET Upgrade Assistant is a super handy tool that they've linked in here. I just want to give a shout out to this really quick. If you haven't seen this yet, make sure you check out the .NET Upgrade Assistant and scroll down on this page. There is a free ebook here on porting your existing ASP.NET apps to .NET 6. John, I think you shared this a couple shows ago, actually. And this was written by Steve Smith, that we know. And there's a full PDF where you can view it live on the web. If you're going to check out this page, make sure you check out the full thing. Grab those links at the bottom. Check out .NET 7. And
one interesting thing they mentioned here is hot reload. I know that was a bit of a community discussion, let's say, because they had tied it to Visual Studio, I think, in a previous version. So they talk about it here openly, which is great. That means that it's going to continue to improve. I think my cursory reading of this was that .NET performance is going to improve as well, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of performance improvements, etc. I didn't read too much on new classes in the framework, etc. But I'm sure there are many.
Yeah, there were some big changes in .NET 5 to 6 with like the minimal project like solution files. So your program and startup are now consolidated, that type of thing. I haven't seen it yet if they're going to do any more of that with .NET 7, but I imagine there will be some more consolidation of kind of what they like to call ceremony, code ceremony stuff. So they're trying to slim this down, make it easier to use, faster to write apps, and then also execution faster as well. Nice. So there's lots of stuff coming there. Of course, ASP.NET got updated as well. So performance increases on ASP.NET Core. It's even more faster in .NET 7, which, like you said, I don't know how it can keep getting faster, but it does. HTTP 3 support is shipping for a preview for .NET 6 and for .NET 7.
They want to complete it. Yep.
Minimal APIs. Like I said, there's a lot of the ceremony stuff getting cut out. Minimal APIs are getting some more attention. gRPC, again, more attention. The Razor compiler, this is something that I know frustrates some people. It's still not quite where it needs to be, so they're making efforts to kind of fix that up in the next version as well. Blazor hybrid support is coming. We mentioned that a few times, but I'm really excited about Blazor hybrid. I think that's going to be a game changer. Let's see here.
So lots of stuff.
We have, and yeah, lots of stuff coming in .NET 7. And there's also, if you haven't seen the show, the .NET channel has a ton of stuff on their weekly .NET stand-up. So you can hear right from the source. This post goes on and on and on and on. So we don't have time to talk about all of it, but .NET 7 is here. You can check that out. And this is going to segue nicely into a friend's post. David Hine, a good friend of mine, he's working on a lot of stuff. This guy's everywhere. So he posted a great article on GitHub Actions.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I've yet to get into. John, you seem like you're the expert in this situation, of the two of us anyway. But David's a fantastic writer. If you're going to learn about the GitHub Actions, he's definitely a good source to go to. This is up on the dev blogs at Microsoft.com.
Yeah.
So you can get acquainted with GitHub Actions. So if you're a newbie to GitHub Actions, make sure you check out David's post.
Yeah, the idea is with GitHub Actions, a lot of people want to script their workflows. So YAML provides the structure of here are the tasks I want to write, here are the conditions that apply. And then what a lot of people do is they'll thunk down to bash or something like that, because that's the shell assumed here. So what they're doing in this case, what he's basically showing you, and this is something you've been able to do for a bit. At least my recollection tells me that's the case. You can provision .NET into an environment. So you have three basic runners. You have Windows, Linux, and Mac in GitHub Actions. You can provision that environment, and then you can run the .NET commands against that. But I believe what he's talking about here is that if you scroll down, it looks to me like you can actually provision the YAML is most important here. You can provision environments that, first of all, you can provision what version of .NET you want to have in your environment, which is that environment setting there. That's the version of the .NET. That's the environment variable you set. Those are the runners. That's just basically for every job defined, run it across this matrix. And then inside here, I believe that, he's going into a detailed example. I'm not sure if he's showing how to script this in a different way, but it looks like he's just running the .NET commands, which is great. So if you're wanting to do .NET Pack or .NET Restore or et cetera, like these are common commands that you'll run in the .NET application. These are things that you can do. I believe, I seem to remember that this was a thing that you could do for a while. In fact, I think this has been available for a while now. I think this is just a post that talks about, more explicitly how to do this. So,
yeah, it's definitely an intro article. Get people acquainted with it.
Yes.
Dave's
There's talk about how to author these things as well. So the canonical way of authoring GitHub Actions, if you're like, there's about 9,000 or so in the marketplace, so you can write your own actions. Typically, you would write those in JavaScript, but more recently, people have been doing them with other languages, like, for example, Go. So we're tying it in again. I don't know. I believe you can write these in .NET. Don't quote me on that, even though I'm on a show and this is being recorded, but. I believe you can write these in other languages as well, beyond just obviously JavaScript. We were experimenting with this about a year ago, and we were able to get Go based GitHub Actions up and running. So
nice. Yeah, so David's a huge fan of GitHub Actions, and he's brilliant. I wanted to bring up this article and something else he's working on. So this is called Blazorators. This is a library that David's working on for Blazor. It's a pretty big ask. It's a boil the ocean type project, and I was a little skeptical at first, but he is showing me that it is possible, and I am amazed at everything he's done so far. So what he's doing is using Blazor C# source generators to generate JavaScript interop code for Blazor. So we have, all these little packages springing up of different JavaScript interops to do things like, for example, geolocation, something that's not supported by Blazor out of the box. You have to write some JavaScript interop code to take advantage of that. You might go grab, a NuGet package that can help you support that, so you don't have to write the code yourself. But David's like, what if I just stick the source generators after the JavaScript interop using some docs that are already available and just generate this JavaScript interrupt code for you. So he's actually working on this, and he's had some success with it so far. So basically in your app, you say that you want to generate some JavaScript interrupt for the local storage API, and he's doing this all with an attribute here.
That's clever.
And he's like, all right, for my app, I want the local storage API. Here's where that is spec'd out. Go ahead and generate some methods for the get and set item functions in that JavaScript definition, and then generate that interface for me.
Mm-hmm.
So you put this in your project, you run the source generator, and there you have an iStorage service that you can just write C# code against. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, so if memory serves, this is done at runtime, and it's done dynamically as part of Roslyn, if I remember correctly, and it injects basically that implementation into the target interface that you apply the attribute to. And so what this is doing is basically providing that sort of ability within Blazor, which is clever. I like it. This is different to other things you've seen in the past. Like there was a lot of remoting work done. Those are statically defined. You see these things, you see these projects that kind of bridge technologies together. This one's done at runtime, which is nice. That's facilitated by code generator or source generators rather. So that's neat.
Yeah, it's done at build time, not runtime.
I thought source generators were done at runtime, but I could.
Yeah, they're done during compilation.
Yes, but the execution of it is done during that step, is it not? Okay, whatever. I clearly don't know.
It generates source code for you, so
okay.
It's not being done at runtime; it's being done at compile time. So there's a pre-compilation step, and then.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. When people assume runtime, I meant runtime of the compiler. I didn't mean runtime of the program.
Okay. Yeah,
sorry.
I was. Okay, I was making sure we weren't assuming this was. Because this would be hell on your application if it was running at runtime.
What
at execution time.
Yeah, what you typically see in templating languages is you'll see the generation process occur based on metadata, and it will spit out the source code for you, and you take that and throw that into the compiler. What I mean to say is with source generators, they run at the runtime of the compiler step. So a nice save. I'm not saving anything else. Obviously, I could be wrong, but there you go.
Yeah,
that's so I could be wrong.
I was a bit skeptical when David asked my opinion on this. I was like, well, I've written a couple interrupts, and I have to jump through all these hoops to make the dev experience work well. And he's like, I got some ideas for it, and he went on, and then just this week he pings me on Twitter and says, check this out, and he's built this in the Blazor REPL, so Telerik REPL for Blazor here, and he's like, this Blazor geolocation WebAssembly package is generated from the source generator. Yeah, so he got this to work. I guess it generates the package, or he generated the package and posted it on GitHub, on NuGet, and then pulled it into the REPL so you can check it out right in the browser.
So I think you need to request the native position by clicking on the button
that's there.
And then that gives you the prompt. Yes, this is using the browser thing. Then it gives you the results. Yes.
And then it gave me the JSON results back. So yeah, that's pretty impressive.
So it's a stop. It's sort of like PhoneGap. It's like bridging the gap between what we have available through JavaScript and bringing that forward to Blazor, I guess. So it's Blazor Gap. It would be a possible name for it. So
please don't. So many negative connotations to PhoneGap now.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, here's this geolocation that was generated from the source code generators, and then you could just make calls to the methods on it. Get current position. Get current position will get you a one-time response. So I have to check with John or David on this one and see. There's another method that is promise-based, and it will keep firing a callback when your position changes.
Yeah, there's
I
all
can't
kinds
remember
of
what that
APIs.
one
There's an
is.
there's an accelerometer API. There's a whole bunch of APIs that if your browser does support it and you have, things you can get callbacks for
Yeah.
position updates, etc.
So get current position wasn't too bad when I hand coded this one, because you're just requesting. It's like an async call. You can just say, get me the current position. The other one, you're subscribing to an event, and every time, say you're walking down the street, it'll ping
On
every
position
few
changed
seconds
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where this on position received async comes in handy. So you might be able to subscribe to that thing. That would be really cool. So I'll have to ask him about that one. But he's making a lot of headway with this, and it's definitely worth checking out. And it's open source if you want to help him. It's up there on GitHub. Just search David Pine, Microsoft. You'll find all his stuff. Great guy, too. And then last but not least, John, I know how much you love AR, VR stuff. This is actually a paid post that I found.
I don't mind AR. AR's fine.
But this is a post by Snapchat.
Sure.
It's kind of a promotional post, but I thought it was worth sharing because they're one of the quiet, relatively speaking. We talk about like Microsoft and HoloLens, and everybody's debating whether Apple's going to release some type of device, but Snapchat's not like the first thing I think a lot of people think of when they think AR and VR, right? It's like Snapchat's that thing my teenager uses to text their friends. But Snap's working on a lot of AR stuff, and they're making way with the fashion industry right now. I've seen a lot of examples of this where you can use AR to like try on glasses. I'm trying to remember. Is it Foster Grant that just released that app? You could try on glasses without having to go to a kiosk at the mall or something and try them on. Prada's doing bags. This is going to be a thing. This is definitely going to be a thing. This is a very near-term solution on your mobile device to be able to do this type of stuff. You don't need special glasses and whatnot to do this type of thing. So keep your eye on Snapchat. See what they're doing with the AR, VR space. It's pretty interesting. I'm definitely watching. I know I won't call his name out. There was a very popular Microsoft community person that joined their developer advocate team recently, specifically to work on AR, VR stuff. So it's
I know who you're talking about.
Do you? Okay. There's no specific reason I'm not saying who it is. It's just when people make career changes, I don't like to speak on their behalf. You know what I mean?
It's not just him. There's a few other of his.
Oh, are there a few other?
There's a few friends that are moving over there as well. So I know who you're talking about, and it's on Twitter, and it's interesting. It raises eyebrows. So folks in the .NET community will know these people. So
yeah. So when you see those kind of big moves being made, you kind of, especially somebody like me looks at Snap, and like I said, I always thought of Snapchat as like that thing my kids use that I always have to worry about them, using for nefarious things like texting people and having no traceability of who they've been talking to. And then all of a sudden, all of this AR stuff started to pick up, and I see very important people making shifts to go work there. I'm like,
sure,
they may be onto something.
So I need to clarify something. AR I have no problem with. It's VR I have a problem with.
Okay, AR you have no problem with unless it's on your face.
Yes. Well, by that point it's now VR.
Really.
I guess you're right. But AR I actually don't mind. It's actually quite nice. You're right. I think it definitely has some applications worth exploring. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, the race is just starting. We'll see. I mean, if people have
Yeah.
gotten, people have gotten tired of the news, I guess they can check out and they can go into the VR land where everything's awesome, I guess. So,
Yeah. Keep your eye on Snapchat AR. See what they're doing over there. They've got SDKs and stuff out there that are probably worth playing with. I haven't got a chance to dig into those things yet. But maybe I'll start following some of the folks that moved over there and see what they're working on and try out some of the stuff they're demoing. So that's it for the week, John. We'll be here on Wednesdays from now on. I think I'll talk to you after the show, but we're probably gonna have to skip next week.
okay.
But I've got some travel coming up as well, so we'll be on and off again. But we'll be back. We'll definitely be back with more shows. So y'all have a good week and take care. Any last thoughts, John?
Nope. Just stay. There's lots of news coming out these days, so just make sure you check out your Twitters and RSS feeds and all that. And yeah, just it's an exciting time. There's lots of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I'll talk to you all soon.